Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so I'll now call this meeting of the County Council to order, November 15th, 2022. Councilman Reese, would you mind leading us in prayer?
Oh, gracious Father, we thank you once again for allowing us to assemble here once again, Father, in building your kingdom. We thank you, Father, for allowing us to be able to help our citizens across Madison County, all our first responders, and all our great employees, Father. We ask you, Father, also put your arms around our leadership across the country, Father, and all the turmoil that's going on throughout the land. We thank you, Father, once again for all those who's here to help us to come to bring the decisions that will be betterment for our county and all those abroad. In your name we pray. Amen.
If you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Todd, would you do the roll call, please?
Present.
Here.
Here.
Councilman Alexander.
Here.
Councilwoman Likens.
Here.
Councilman Reese.
Here.
President Gale.
Here. Now I would accept a motion for the approval of the minutes of the October 11th, 2022 meeting.
Make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Vaughn,
Second.
second by Councilman Steele. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Next, for the approval of the agenda.
President Gale? Oh,
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to move the prosecutor's transfer and the coroner's transfer down the agenda to discuss those in the new money section for the general fund. Their transfers have to do with general fund money.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the exception of moving the coroner and prosecutor's transfers down to the portion of the agenda where we would be discussing their new money requests. And we have a motion. That motion was by Councilwoman Likens, a second by Councilman Alexander. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Tonight, I just want to share a special thank you to Councilman Reese and Councilman Alexander. Their terms will be concluding here at the end of this calendar year. We do have a small token of gratitude, but it is a little bit delayed in getting here. So,
Not food?
not food, but we'll make sure that you guys get those as soon as they come in. But thank you both for your many years of service to the county. Your commitment to the council and to the community is very respectful and respected, and you'll be missed. Okay. So, thank you both.
Thank you.
Next, the auditor's report.
Good evening, Council. We'd like to share some numbers with you tonight. Through 2022, earlier in the year, I think it was in March, we presented this to you, and we've just basically updated the slides. If you could bear with us just a few moments. So, first of all, we're going to be looking at major spending. The major spending, fund spending is general fund, public safety fund, and lit, or what used to be COIT, prior to 2018. So we have been able to stabilize the spending, and it's been fairly stable since 2016. If you take a look at the graph on the next page, in the blue is general fund. In the red, you'll see public safety, and then the CARES Act would be that in the green in 2021. That would be CARES Act spending. The next slide we'll be looking at is debt reduction. Debt has been reduced from since 2018 from $14,284,513, and by the end of this year, it will be $6,788,113, or a reduction of over 50%. So if you look, we like seeing that. Those are good things to be looking at: stabilized spending and then debt reduction. If you go on to the next slide, Todd, I've said this all along that your general fund cash balance at year end needs to be at $9 million. As your budget creeps up a hair, we think that $9.5 million is a better mark to hit. So somewhere between $9.5 million, we've been saying that for some time. That's where you need to be on December 31st in order to fund your budget for the next year. Your budget, your balance at that time would be right after a property tax settlement in December, and property taxes is about half of what revenue we bring in. So if you'll take a look at that, those are cash balances from 2017 through 2021. So if we move on to the next slide, we're looking at the rainy day fund. The rainy day fund needs to be at 15% of the general fund budget, or $6.1 million. Thereabout, that would be the industry standard. At the beginning of 2021, we were at $36,000. We took it upon ourselves and got approval from the council to schedule a deposit into the general fund monthly that first year. In 2021, of $100,000 a month, which got you $1.2 million. In 2022, we said, hey, let's put $150,000 a month in there, got you another $1.8 million. As we go on down, you'll see some increases in interest from the treasurer. Treasurer Gert earned quite a bit of interest, plus we had some CARES Act reimbursement to the general fund for public safety wages. So if we move on to this screen here, you'll see where we were during that 17, 18, 19, 20 area, where it was down to, I don't even see a blue line on 2020, and then we started shooting back up. We've also, on top of taking that 1.2, 1.8, and the items I talked about, also as I see a tax sale fund or a dormant fund that's old enough, which is 3 years or more, those will go into the general fund, and like I'm asking tonight, I will come and ask for that to go over into the rainy day fund. It has to hit the general fund first. So you went from 36,000 to at the end of this year, if you approve the $65,000 transfer tonight, we'll be at $5,832,000. Treasurer Gert has that deposited in a bank. I think he's down in Evansville with that because the rate was higher, knowing that the council had planned on using the rainy day fund to fund the capital trial that we're looking at. Over the next several years, however many years that might turn out to be. He has invested that separately. He knows that's what we're doing. We've discussed it multiple times. He's now getting a little bit better rate at another bank and is anticipating moving that to a 3.05% interest rate from a 2.24. But in the last 3 months, that fund has earned $17,000 in interest, hoping that we can generate enough interest to pay our bills without getting into the principal would be the ideal thing. That'll be hard to do, but we'll make the best of it. The treasurer will hit $1.6 million by the end of this year, and for his during his first term, $700,000 for 2022 will be the estimated interest by the end of the year. If the Fed increases rates, which it looks like it will, those interest rates will rise and be better actually for the taxpayer earning money on their tax dollars. So a recap of that, your spending has been stabilized since 2016. Debt's been cut in half. Your general fund has been stabilized, and you've been able to save almost $6 million in just the last few years. So that's a balance sheet I think most people would want to see. Certainly the taxpayers, I'm sure, are happy with those numbers. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Quick question.
Sure.
The one screen where you show the interest off the rainy day fund,
$17,000 and change.
does that go back into that?
It goes into the rainy day fund. Yep, it's invested separately. Keep in mind during those that 18, 19, 20 year, we were part of that. Prior to that, we were on the council together, but we financed a bridge and we paid for it out of our pocket. So in those slides you've seen where the cash balance dipped down to $8.5 million, that's while we were spending $1.25 million a year for a 3-year period for $3.75 million on the bridge so that we didn't go in debt for that. So there was no bonding on that bridge. We paid cash for it. So we ran with a lower balance intentionally to pay that bridge as we went, and then now we're better off for it today.
Rick, I'd like to mention something. I think that we as a council really owe you a lot of accolades for a job well done and constantly keeping before us the limitations and the fact that we've had to stay within a certain amount of resources, and you continuously advocated that $9 million and kept that in front of us, and we appreciate that. But not only that, but you have, a lot of times county government works where each department is sort of independent and they function on their own, but you've proven that you can collaborate with other departments and keep them abreast of what's going on, and where everybody understands when we're at a crisis point and what we really need to function, just like this story with Dan Gert and his investments, and you know there's been just a good collaboration there, and I just want to say that now moving on as just a taxpayer, that I feel like that we're in good hands for the next couple of years because of your leadership, and I want to say thank you for that.
I appreciate that, Jerry. Also want to say for you and Fred, it's been a joy working with you over the last few years, and I hate to see you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, for new business, first we have Resolution 2022-11A, a joint resolution with the Commissioners adopting an on-call policy. This is something the Commissioners passed at their recent meeting. Would there be a motion?
What is this?
This was, I believe it was in our packets, should have been. This is a result of some communication with the State Board of Accounts and them urging us to firm up our on-call policy here in Madison County. There was some language in current policy, but this clarifies it a bit more.
Who is this for? Is it for a particular?
It would be for anybody that has employees that would be on-call status employees.
How many departments do we have like that?
Um,
How many employees is going to affect?
that I'm aware of, we probably have, I can think of at least, I believe, 4, I believe.
Cheers.
So, okay, 6 right here. Oh, that's right. IT would be on call at times as well. Yeah, yeah,
You naming them?
yeah,
Who's naming them?
yeah. So there's quite a few. And this ensures that we do have this written policy and that we're operating in accordance with state law. And this was members of the council, this was in our email, so that you should have had time to review this. Purpose of the policy is to provide guidelines to elected officials, department directors, and supervisors regarding the process and procedures to be followed for non-exempt employees who are required to maintain their availability after hours or during days off to be on call, to come back to work, or to otherwise be available to respond to emergency situations. It goes on. I assume you all took the time to read this. So before we get too much into discussion on it, again, I would like to go in the proper process. So now would be a time for a motion so that we can then move forward with discussion.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Alexander. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emery. Is there any discussion?
Councilman Gill, I read it today. I guess I'm confused maybe. Why is this coming? Are we doing any money with this as the council? I know the commissioners are the policy in this. they handle all the policies and stuff, so why is it coming in front of us? I guess that's why I don't.
Well, this was recommended by both legal counsel, the county
The-
council's legal counsel and the commissioner's legal counsel, that it needed to be a joint resolution. So,
I just didn't know if we're kind of appropriate, because I supposedly that money would come out on call would be the different departments that we do in the budget, correct? Whatever would be the sheriff's department or
right.
whatever department, okay.
But it does involve how people are paid, how that money is spent.
Right.
So there is a bit of a crossover in responsibility.
Right.
Are there any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next, as Rick mentioned earlier, Resolution 2022-11B, moving $65,000 to the rainy day fund. Rick, would you want to explain where this money comes from?
This particular balance was from a 3-year-old tax sale, and it was surplus on the properties that sold in that particular sales tax sale that weren't claimed by the in the overbid process. Over a 3-year period, once that 3 years is up, it can roll into the general fund, which has happened, and now we're asking, that was unexpected revenue. We'll have 2 of those every year. This would be the largest. Wouldn't necessarily be the largest number, but for this year it would. In March, we'll have another commissioner sale. It'll be 3 years old. That's always a smaller amount, because in the commissioner's sale, many of those properties sell for $50. So I think that balance is like $15,000. So they have 3 years to claim their money. And after that 3 years, it rolls into the general fund. We've attempted through our office in past years to find people to try to get them to claim their money. That's more difficult than you would imagine. Just like our office will also reach out, and it's a sizable cost. It's about 40% to reach out and get people that have illegal homesteads. So if you have a homestead and you don't actually live in a property, it will eventually catch up with you, and you'll have to pay back 3 years' worth, the difference between a 1% and 2%. So, but this is just a tax sale that had expired its 3-year term, and we put it in the general fund, and we're asking, it was 65 and change, I just rounded it down to 65, asking for that to go into rainy day fund, as it wasn't expected revenue.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second? Then we'll get to your question. Second by Councilman Emery.
Okay, the question I have is, can you explain that a little bit clearer so that
Sure.
laymen will understand
Okay.
that? When someone purchases a property in the
Yes.
the tax sale and they overbid for the property, is this the overage that you're
That's exactly right. So let's say a property was on sale 3 years ago in a tax sale, and let's say the taxes owed on it was $10,000. And it took $11,000 to buy that lien on that property. Well, that $1,000 goes into a surplus. So that $1,000, the owner of that property that it is actually losing that on tax sale has up to 3 years to come in and say, hey, I want that $1,000. If that doesn't happen within that 3 years, then it goes to the general fund.
So the new policy is that those kinds of overage for the successful bidder, you allocate those toward future taxes. Isn't that correct?
During the redemption process, yes.
No one is hurt except for the one that really realistically doesn't due diligence to get the proceeds from them.
Right. That's right.
Are there any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Next for transfers, again, as a reminder, when the agenda was approved, coroner and prosecutor transfers were moved down. So at this point, we would be addressing all of the transfers listed except for those 2. Would there be a motion to approve the transfers?
I would like to make a motion,
Okay,
another if I may.
okay.
I would like to make a motion to pull out IT and the youth center for discussion.
Okay.
And would you like me to name the rest of them? And I mean, those are the only two I want to pull out, but
Okay. And then would your motion be then to approve the rest
to
of them?
approve the rest then
Yeah.
en masse.
I
Okay.
second that motion.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Likens, second by Councilman Alexander. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, so now we need to individually hit IT and Youth Center. Would you like maybe somebody from those departments to come and, I assume there are some questions about
Yes,
those?
please, if you-
Okay, well, we will start with IT. Lisa Cannon, would you mind?
Shouldn't you go ahead and approve the rest of the transfers first?
Oh, did we not?
No, her
Oh.
motion was to pull some out. Now
Oh,
we
yeah.
have to- we have to-
I'm sorry. Okay. So we had the motion in the second. I got ahead of myself. So all in favor then of approving the transfers per Councilwoman Likens' motion, say aye. Yeah. Yeah, we did that, didn't we?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
Well, I was under the impression that we were approving her motion, and then
Oh.
we had to have another motion to approve the transfers
In mass.
in mass.
She amended the motion to
She was amending the motion,
okay.
okay.
So yeah, so we should be good then. Okay. Okay, so, sorry. Got all confused. Okay, so we are looking at the IT transfer. Lisa, would you want to just give us an explanation of what that is for?
Lisa Cannon, IT Director. This is money that was left over in the, let me look at this real quick, in the rentals. If you remember, 3 years ago, we did a complete overhaul of all the computers. We paid that year, and then we paid for 2 years, which is actually a 3-year lease, but you're paying when you get them, with the understanding that on that third year, instead of you all taking that money back, when I explained it to begin with, it was to purchase and upkeep our backup equipment, because that money was taken away the year after the crypto. So we've had to do some, fancy juggling. So at that time, we knew that we would have money this year, and so I'm having it moved into other services and hardware, and it will go towards that equipment, our Nimbles and our backup equipment, to keep it serviced, add additional space, because we, of course, we grow every year, and that's what this year was for. So we waited till the end of the year to ask for it.
Okay. Would there be a motion then on that?
just want to approve them all together, Councilman Gillard.
I'll make a motion to approve that transfer individually.
Okay, Councilman Alexander has made a motion to approve the IT transfer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Likens. Any discussion on that? Thank you for the explanation. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes. Next would be the Youth Center.
Mackenzie Ash, Executive Director of the Youth Center. So our request for transfer is into the 5,200 operating supplies are for uniforms for the youth. Uniforms include their daily uniform, which is, I guess you could consider it their smocks, so shirt, pants. Youth also are required to wear T-shirt and gym shorts when they participate in gym or when they're in their rooms. Boxers, underwear for the females, and then bras, and that's about 5,200. I'm hoping that is enough so that we don't have to purchase anything next year. That's part of the reason why these transfers are. And then into the machinery and equipment, we currently have 2 dryers and 2 washers. Well, we did until last Wednesday, and last Wednesday one of our washers caught on fire, and the Anderson Police Department had to come to the center and put it out. So we did that proactively, knowing that both the washers and the dryers, the facility was created in 1994. I would venture to say that they're original to the facility. We have one of the dryers that everything you put in the dryer, it melts, so we do not use it. Suicide blankets are $120 a piece. You put a $120 blanket in the dryer and it melts it. So we don't even turn that one on. I want to replace that. I need to replace the washer that caught on fire, and then the other one, maintenance has probably worked on it, I don't know, 6 times in the last 3 months, just trying to get us by for that transfer. We need a couple of new computer monitors, and our radio system is failing. It creates a lot of static. We've had our radios repaired. They're just old, and they need replaced. So that's what that equipment is for.
I have asked this question for 4 years. When a dryer catches on fire, it's considered contents, and that is a covered loss on an
Yes.
insurance policy?
It is. That is being worked with. Andy from the maintenance department is aware of that. Yes.
Okay, so do we have any resolution on that? We're talking about allocating money that might be paid for out of an insurance policy.
I can't answer that. Today is my first day back. Obviously, I had surgery. So today is my first day back. I wasn't even there when it caught on fire. I just know that they were contacted. They did come out, and I know that there was going to be some discussion about whether insurance would pay to replace that or not.
In the event of an insurance payout for something, I know we had MCCC with the vehicle that ran into it. If insurance does pay out, that would just go back to the general fund to reimburse for us allowing them to buy it ahead of time, correct? So, yeah. So,
And I don't know, let me say this, I don't know that we will use all of this $77,000. Since the fire has happened, Andy has turned us onto, we have a contract, well, the 3 facilities, us, the jail, and the MCCC all have a contract with HPS, which has to do with Gordon Food Service, where we can get some equipment at some discounts. My understanding is that the maintenance department may have someone that we can work with that we can get it for much cheaper than what HPS is quoting us. So we may not need to utilize the whole $77,000. But I can tell you that the washers themselves are $25,000 a piece, which is what was quoted to us by HPS.
And this utilities is 10,000, you're taking out at McKinsey, are you sure,
Yes,
you got plenty in
fine.
there
Yeah,
to the end of the year?
we did transfer money into our utilities. That is in excess of what we're going to need to get through this month and next month. That's why I didn't touch any of the other line items.
So it's not gonna make you short?
No, it will not make us short. I'm confident with that.
Okay. And you have no positions in JD, or Juvenile Detention Officer 7 and 9, and,
No,
or
that's,
these all,
those are also, yes, and we don't have those positions for next year.
okay.
is there anyone that would like to make a motion to keep us moving, or?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to
Second.
approve by Councilman Emery, second by Councilman Vaughn. Any discussion? Were there any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes. Thank you very much. We will now move on to the new money portion of the meeting. So we have some miscellaneous funds tonight, hazmat truck fund, and then the courts have a couple of their funds. We have some rainy day fund items. We also have an ARPA fund item, and then we have 4 general fund requests. So at this time, I would open up for public comment, reminding everyone to state your name and where you're from, and keep your comments to about 3 minutes or less, and we're going to make sure comments stay focused on the items that we'll be addressing on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this? Okay, we'll move forward then. First is miscellaneous funds, the hazmat truck fund.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jeff Dyer from Emergency Management, and we handle the financial part of the hazmat truck fund. This money is actually money that was billed for runs, and it's being asked to transfer into an account that we can actually purchase materials. The materials that are purchased are the expendables that were used in the operation of the hazmat responses. So the money, when they do a response, sometimes they can bill generate a bill for that service. And when the money comes in, it went into a fund, and then that's what I'm asking to be transferred.
Okay. So then this, again, doesn't come out of general fund. It doesn't affect our general fund.
That's
cash
correct.
balance. It's just from this dedicated
Make a
fund.
motion approved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Steele. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next would be the courts. Mr. Hunter?
Sorry. Feeling my age today, sorry. Good evening, everybody. 2 grants is what we have here. We're always searching for money someplace. The first one is the court improvement grant. Where that actually is used is in CHINS, Children in Need of Services hearings. We have mediators that come in and try to work with appropriate cases and try to speed the case through so that, more services can be provided for the family sooner, and, the kids maybe can get their situation resolved, and parental type issues, counseling, that kind of thing. But we have a mediator. This year we got $10,000 to hold mediation, so that's money that won't come out of the budget, so we're asking to have that approved. The other item is what's called the SIM grant. Justice Partners is a department at the Indiana Office of Court Services, and they currently have provided the case manager who does the IRAS PAT evaluations at the jail for pretrial. For the pretrial initiative. And we have an award for that for this season of, you can see, $40,000, $3,000, $4,500, and $12,000, $4,400, $4,400. I'm sorry, $12,440. That's the entire compensation for that case manager. And then the remaining money here goes to our problem-solving court. The professional services account is for their psychologist that consults with them. The $10,000 is for them to attend the National Association of Drug Court Professionals Conference, so that none of that comes out of the county money. We get it grant money-wise instead. And then incentives. These are for people that are doing well in problem-solving court. It's bus passes and gas cards and that kind of stuff. So small but valuable things to people who are, struggling with finances and that kind of thing. So those are the 2 grant awards. We applied for those this year, and we got the award letters. So we're asking for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion approved.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Likens. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, the ARPA fund. The commissioners passed at a recent meeting an ARPA fund request. Jessica Bastian can explain.
Good evening, Jessica Baston, County Engineer. I'm here on behalf of the County Commissioners and the ARPA leadership team. The leadership team met last week at a publicly noticed meeting to discuss this proposal that was submitted by the Commissioners. The proposal involves providing a one-time payment to county employees. Elected officials are exempt from this. It's a tiered system where employees who work less than 28 hours per week on average receive $1,000. Employees who work 29 to 39 hours per week receive $2,000, and those working greater than 40 hours per week receive a $3,000. Again, this is a one-time thing, and so we are here to answer any questions you have and ask for consideration for the appropriation.
Make a motion approved.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emery. Is there any discussion or further questions?
Yes, I really appreciate, I got mixed comments emails and calls on this, and I think it's really important to understand the time we're in. I want to thank the commissioners. I brought up at the last meeting about this. We cannot give raises out of the general fund. We had to cut a little deeper with the insurance and stuff. So, we're competing against a market in today's where you can go to Chick-fil-A and make $19 an hour. I get emails every day on my county email about jobs opening. Employees need to feel appreciated. We have insurance that could be going up. I mean, there's several different factors where I felt right that I wanted. So I really appreciate it. I want to thank Commissioner Richwine, Commissioner Likens, Jessica for doing this, because this is something just not you're looking at one saying, no, you're just giving them money. There's different factors relating this. So I really appreciate this. And because I got calls from employees and we just don't know what the future holds, and whether we're competing with the private sector or government sector, losing too many people can be a really bad thing for taxpayers. So I really appreciate this being done, and thank you for it.
Thank you. I will pass that on.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you guys look at what they did across the street? It's similar to what they did across the street, it's a whole different type of problem.
I'm not familiar with what they did across the street. My understanding is that it was similar, but I honestly can't speak to that. I don't know if Rick or anyone else can, but I'm not in the loop with that.
President Gale, I just want to mention to the council that at the ARPA leadership meeting that all members were in favor of this, and we agree that we would like to see our employees get something. I know that we hope to give a raise this year, and that was not something that we could do. The good news is if we gave a raise, we're probably looking at 3 or 4%, probably top, under normal circumstances. And if we look at that, that's spread out over an entire year. So somebody's getting a few extra dollars a paycheck. This is a one-time lump sum, which will help those folks to hopefully maybe pay off a few bills, or maybe provide a decent Christmas for their children, or whatever they decide to use it for. But if we look at the $3,000 for full-time employees, if we got somebody making $31,000, that's roughly a 10% bonus. If they're $35,000, which many of the office personnel are here in this county, that's an 8.5% bonus. So again, this is a substantial amount, and I just really appreciative of the council members and the commissioners and the ARPA leadership following through with this. I know that Fred and I and Mikkel and I had this conversation a few months ago, and we're hoping to do something like this, and I'm glad to see that it actually come to fruition, that it happened.
I'd like to do a little more.
Just to make sure that people are all clear too, my understanding is this is coming out of the restricted portion of ARPA.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mention
Oh,
that.
that's
That was
okay.
clarified today by the commissioners. It is going to come out of the, as employee compensation provision of the ARPA fund, so it's not the lost revenue. And Councilman, I would also add the auditor's office. This is going to be a big burden on their office. Just huge kudos to them for stepping up and taking the lead on this.
And Rick was very willing to take on that workload, knowing that would preserve the unrestricted funds that we might need to use elsewhere. But I guess that's another thing for the employees. Just know that, unless Rick's going to correct me, I don't believe this is something that's necessarily going to be out right away. It's going to take a little bit of time to go through the process. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of documentation they have to do. And so, I would hate for somebody to go out and think they're going to get money within a week or two and go spend, and just be aware it is a process, and they will be working a lot of hours to make it happen.
Is it a possibility, Rick, before Christmas, you think? Is it a possibility, or?
We would like to make that happen before Christmas. What, the restricted part of the ARPA funding for employees based on hours worked, okay? So it's going to be it's going to be a dollar amount per hour times hours worked during a certain amount of time. That'll have to all be compiled. We'll do that through our help from our vendor at Advanced Time Management. we are a web-based time and attendance system, so they have to do some, I'm going to say, quirky work to get, since it's not actually software, it's web-based, they've got to do some work in order for us to extract the numbers we need on hours worked to fall into that three-tier system average of 28 or less, 29 to 39, or 40 or more for full-time employees. So we're waiting on them right now. We got to work on it as soon as we had our meeting the other day on the ARPA committee, and we're waiting to hear from them when they can help us get those. They're working on it right now. We got to update. They said they'd try to update us tomorrow. They thought they'd get a little bit closer tomorrow. So.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Yes.
Jessica. You state this is a one-time,
Yes.
so it can't go back and revisit this before 26.
Oh, it could be, yes, I'm sorry. No, this payment is a one-time payment. If if someone were to propose another payment such as this, maybe next year, that would go through the process again, and it could happen again. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear.
And another thing, Councilman Gale, I'd like to add is this is not spoiling the budget. What I mean by that, we're uncertain in times where we don't know the economy to the future. It could inflation. They talked about it today about raises. So this is very smartly, I think, to do this because we just don't know the future, and we don't know if we can give raises for another couple of years. You know, I discussed with Rick that with the, help me out, Rick, the local income tax, we were uncertain it could see effect in 2 years from now. So, and different taxes could be. So this is investing our employees, and that's just, so I just want to add that. Thank you.
Okay. There's no other questions or comments then?
Comment. Kudos to President Biden.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and I actually accidentally went out of order. I was supposed to do the rainy day fund items first. It's been a long week at work, and it's only Tuesday, so I apologize. I'm
I was
struggling
just letting
today.
you roll with it, Councilman Gale. I'd figure you'd get it.
So we do have requests from 3 different departments for rainy day funds. Rick, is this something that your office has worked on? Yeah.
What we have here is a request because of council's guidance earlier in the year and the ability to take on this capital case that exists over a period of time. We decided, or you guys decided, to do that within the rainy day fund. We can set up new funds, but they have to have a revenue stream, and there's no revenue stream for a capital court case. So I think we all agreed that out of the rainy day fund that would work, and then we could monitor that and know for sure what's being spent. If you throw it out in the budgets, it could, I mean, if it goes into a 39,000 line or 31,000 line, it could be spent for anything. But if we keep it here, we can know when we get done what that case cost us as a county and for the taxpayers. So I just picked a number that I know will get us. We're not going to hit these numbers this year, but we need an appropriation for them to spend anything that might happen. I know the prosecutor's office have had some cost, and we'll do a claims adjustment to reimburse where those costs for this case are, because in our office, we want it all in one spot so we can see what that number is at the end of that case, whenever that might be. So we took a random number. We put $200,000 in the prosecutor's budget. And just to not knowing what the public defender needed, we matched that dollar for dollar for appropriations, and then we put $100,000 in to the court administration for an amount of $500,000. There's very small money been spent so far. I don't expect it to. It's nowhere near going to be this kind of money. It's a very small portion of that, but we weren't sure. We picked a number. This appropriation dies at the end of next month, and you will have to do something next year to limp that on along as those things start happening. I don't remember. I think, Andrew, are you here? I don't know what your costs have been yet. They're not that large.
A few thousand,
Yeah, it's not very much yet, but we needed a number. So,
So, Rick, then at the end of the year, this would, whatever's left over, which would likely be the bulk of it, would then go back to the general fund. correct?
it'll remain in the rainy day
Okay,
fund.
so it'll revert back to the
So,
rainy day.
he's instructing us that it's a few $1,000s. The interest alone that we've earned in the last 3 months is going to more than cover those expenses unless something really starts picking up. But I don't know anything about court cases or how quick those happen.
So then it would be wise for us, maybe for the January agenda, to go ahead and do this again.
Right.
To make sure that they have the money.
Right. You could make this anywhere from the $500,000 it is probably down to, 200,000 or whatever. It's a number that's not going anywhere. If it's not spent, it's remaining in there. The appropriation and ability to spend it ends on December 31st. And it's only going to be spent for that capital case.
Okay.
Make the motion approved.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Vaughn to approve these.
All three funds.
All three
For all
funds?
three, sorry, thanks. Rob.
Is there
Make a motion
second?
approved for all three funds, be transferred.
Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Councilman Alexander. Any discussion?
I do have a question, and the.
Yes.
Do you have any idea whether this trial will ultimately be plead out, or is there?
No, we have no intention of doing such a thing. Yeah. It's currently set in January. I think we have a hearing on Friday. The trial is currently set in January, but that was a very early date that conforms to the criminal rule 4. There's a certain time period where you have to set the initial trial date. The defense is moving to continue that trial. Will be set probably late next year on Friday, and we'll move towards that trial date. Something that's worth noting, in death penalty cases, it triggers Indiana Criminal Rule 24, which kind of governs capital cases and defense. So regular case that may be entitled to a public defender if they're indigent. In a capital case, they're entitled to 2 public defenders that are paid by the hour. These are rates set by the state. There's standards for this. So instead of somebody that we're already paying a salary, they're paid hourly. They have to be capital qualified, and then they can have ex parte, or just meeting hearings with just the defense and the court to have all these expenses paid for. Investigators, they're entitled to mitigation experts and any psychologist experts, anything that they need during that case. So that's going to be ongoing, and that will be just with really the court and the defense. Obviously, those have to be confidential proceedings. Otherwise, the state could be tipped off to what their trial strategy is, et cetera, et cetera. So there's going to be a large sums of money. There's no, of course, additional salary or cost to anybody in the prosecutor's office. All the costs that we incur are for expert witnesses, for producing transcripts, all kinds of things, different individuals we may have to hire on different topics through the course of that case. So just kind of explaining that a little bit.
You have a projection?
It's a tough question, but I would suspect the entire case for the county, kind of depends on how you do that accounting, would come in under $500,000, kind of what you're appropriating now, even though it have to reappropriate it. I would imagine we'd end up somewhere around then. Most of these costs are going to be associated with the defense and some large core costs as well. And so,
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Is there any assets we could possibly recover from the?
now how that works. Yeah.
We don't know whether it be anything or.
I assume you're getting at recovering from the defendant.
Right.
That's not how that works, yeah.
Say the civil forfeiture.
Okay. All right, so again, foggy tonight. If my memory serves, we have a motion and a second, but we have not voted on this yet. Are there any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes. Thank you very much. Next, we go to general fund request. We have the coroner's office, which we also have the transfers from the coroner's office. So if Dr. Abbott would like to come and address both items.
So the transfers for the salaries, and we want to be very clear that we're not going to make salary. By the end of the year, we're going to be out of money. We can't really give you an exact number on that. I will tell you in the last 4 days, I've had over 15 cases. I've had 5 autopsies. I have been running 3 coroners at one time. Our transportation is off the chain. We've had to get transportation from other facilities to help us with that. So with you guys not having a meeting in December and our office continues to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we could potentially be looking at having no deputies in December, leaving sheriffs and officers out there until we get salary that we can pay our people. We cannot in any, I would have never imagined in the last 3 weeks how many deputies I've been running. Yesterday alone, I had 6 cases. I finally had to pull, I had 1 deputy out at 3 autopsies all day. I had another deputy who worked his 5th case. He called me at 6:30 and says, I cannot do any more, Catherine. I had just finished up with clinic, and I went out and I did that case. And I didn't finish up till almost 11 o'clock last night. So we are extremely busy. I've talked with APD. They're getting busier and busier by the minute. They're tired of seeing us. We're tired of seeing them, but it's the reality. So if somebody would have told me I was going to have 6 cases in 16 hours, I would have never believed them. But that's what's happening right now. So I am running out of body bags. I'm running short on that. I have $900 left in autopsies. So I need money for autopsies, I need money for transportation, I need money for just to run that coroner's office. So when we asked for this a month ago, we weren't this crazy. So now we're asking for money and we've gotten really crazy. So last year, we were at about 23.4%. We're running about the same for autopsy rates. We're at 23.5%. So we're on the money. We're not doing anything differently. We're at 107 autopsies. Last year, we were at 128. In this county, we've already had 1,586 deaths. So we're up. I've got over 62 accidents. I've got about 20 suicides. I've got 10 homicides. I've got 5 undecided that we can't even figure out how they died. So, with all this being said and done, I can't come in here and ask you, like the sheriff does, for $100,000 and then get it down to $40,000 every single month. I can only come in here and ask for you what I legitimately think is going to happen. I do not have a crystal ball on death.
Councilman Gale, do we have to make a motion, or is this a discussion? Because I don't want to make a motion yet, 'cause I know you'd like to.
Well, if you have a question for them, go ahead.
In the council meeting, we approved over $90,000.
That is correct.
And I asked the question, is that going to
get us to the end of the year?
Yes.
Correct.
So what has changed? I mean, that's, I guess, what is all this is including? Because, I mean, how do we, I can understand emergencies, I can get all this, but it's just not making sense to me.
So I'm going to counter that question. You ask every month of the sheriff if that's going to get them to the end of the year, and every month they're back asking for more money.
Think about sheriffs.
So, no, but here's the thing. That's the same thing with us. They cannot predict theirs. We can't predict ours. We can give you our best guess. I could have never told you I had 6 cases yesterday. I could have never told you I was running 3 or 4 coroners yesterday. I moved 3 bodies out of our suite at the dispatch. I moved 5 in, all yesterday. I mean, I'm moving these bodies, and I can't predict it, and that's what I'm saying about the sheriff's race. How can you ask the sheriff if he can get to the end of the year? How does he know? He doesn't know what crime's going to happen. I have no idea what death's going to happen. It's the same principle. The prosecutor doesn't know how many cases they're going to have.
Okay.
Mr. Vaughn, you got to remember that, we appropriated initially in our budget, it was $140,000 appropriated. We had $76,000 that rolled over from last year into that $140,000. You appropriated us money so that we would make our account whole to start out with the whole $140 again. So we're getting down to $140, and so $30,000 make us $170 for the year, and our next year budget's at $160. So you can see we're getting close to where the actual target needs to be for this county, and previously it was always $80,000. And so the previous coroner always had cases roll over at $50,000 a year, $50,000 a year, but now we're getting closer to that target of $160,000, $170,000 mark, which is probably where we need to be all along.
Okay,
So,
Councilman.
one second, just, right now, we're discussing the transfer.
The transfer, okay.
So you're requesting to move $4,200 from fourth deputy, which is currently a vacant position?
It's a vacant position, and so what has happened, we have had people that have had overtime monies because we were short-staffed, and so we are transferring money to compensate their overtime because we're trying to get everybody at 80 hours for the rest of the year. So there is no more overtime, and that was going to allow them to be at 80 hours and get us through the rest of the year. The problem is that, as Catherine has said, that when we are doing 2 or 3 deputies at a time, then that may lead us to an overtime issue as well.
So then, 2,700 of that would be going into the second deputy line, which currently sits at a negative $600 and some dollars. So that employee was scheduled to work when there was no money appropriated for them to work. Your deputies, oftentimes I see on timesheets from your department, that they're clocked in on the clock for 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours, without a break, without clocking out to sleep or have a meal.
That is correct.
That's not on-call pay, that is
Well,
full hourly
Mr. Gale,
rate.
we asked you for on-call pay back in December of 2020, and you never addressed that.
No,
And,
actually,
oh, I have
no,
the emails.
excuse me,
I have the
excuse me,
emails.
and so do I.
And,
Excuse
yes,
me.
let's share them.
I made an offer to you, Dr. Abbott, because I was made aware by legal counsel that keeping people on the clock while they're sleeping in their own bed at home at night doesn't comply with the state law of Indiana. And so I made an offer to work with you via email on a policy or a way of doing that in a way that would not negatively affect their pay. And the response I got from that was simply, you weren't going to work with me.
No, the response was not that. You offered our deputies $3 an hour to be on call. That's
Yes,
what you
and-
offered them.
and-
You
and-
offered them.
excuse
And
me.
you pay us $9.45 an hour.
But part of that offer
Not.
was that if you would have,
You take a paycheck from the county
Okay.
for 12 months, but you only come in session 11.
well, I work a whole lot more than that.
Oh,
But-
and so do we. I'm glad you
Okay,
acknowledge that.
You know what, Dr. Abbott, I would suggest that maybe you work with your employee to help them understand how to approach the council in a professional manner, because she's not doing you any favors
That's
at
okay.
this point.
Telling
But part
the
of-
truth always
but
helps.
Part of that email was that we could adjust the hourly wage for when they're actually working if we got the on-call time to where it would work within
That is not.
law, the law of Indiana. So,
If I'm correct, Mr. Gale, you were quoting an Indiana code that was non-existent at that time.
That is true.
actually, that code was replaced, and the only difference was the way that felonies are classified.
Yeah.
Level 1 versus Class A, whatever. So that law still exists, or the language of that law exists, it just simply, the felony is classified with a letter instead of a number. So you still, if you're paying your employees on the clock while they're at home in their own bed sleeping,
They are on duty.
They are on duty.
they are not on duty, they are on call.
They are on duty.
They are
They're
at
on
home
duty.
in their own bed sleeping.
If you get us a facility where we can sleep out and shower and we can eat at, we'll be happy to go there.
I don't,
We're just like firemen.
no.
We're on duty.
We're on duty and
We-
we're
you know,
on
we're
call.
familiar enough with the way other counties in the state of Indiana do this, and I'm not aware of anybody
What
that is
happened?
having their deputies sleep.
How was this budget previously done for the previous corner of the previous? I have asked for explanation of how the coroner's office was paid previously based upon the budget provided to me. I have asked for those documents, never have received those documents. And if you look at the Herald Bulletin, they had an article where the previous coroner admitted that what they did is they would take pre-signed time cards and make everybody go work from 8 until 4 in the afternoon, and they had 8 hours of pay every day, even though they weren't working as this. I came into office, I'm trying to say if they are on duty, they get paid for being on duty. And that's what I think is fair to the taxpayers, that if we're paying people to be here and doing that. Because what was happening previously,
It's fair to the taxpayers that pay people
let me
while they're
finish this,
sleeping
because
at home
previously people
in
were
their own
being
beds.
paid 40 hours a week, 4 weeks a month at 160 hours. They were on call for like 116 hours. So they were getting paid 160 hours for 116 hours of actual on-duty work. And so I stopped that, because when they're on duty, they get paid to be on duty. They weren't being paid to be ghost employment, to be working another job as a fireman and then coming in and getting paycheck for the same time that they're working at someplace else. So that's what I was trying to do. That's what I had been asking for all along, is that we pay people for the work which is provided, and they are on duty, they are on call, however you want to do it. But if you look at different things, we treat them like firemen because they have to be available to work.
So if you'd like, we can put everybody in the office from 8 to 4 and run it from 8 to 4, and then we can have the sheriffs and the police officers just work from 4 to 8 a.m., 4 p.m. to 8 a.m., and they can just guard that body till we come back into the office. And we can do that Monday through Friday. We're happy to assist.
At the end of the day, it's your responsibility as the office holder to live within your budget. And we have not only increased the coroner's budget in the annual budget, we have consistently agreed to additional appropriations, significant amounts of money, more than 50% of your annual budget. This year and last year, we increased throughout the year with additional appropriations. Excuse me.
Let's start a year when we start the budget as it is supposed to be started, as opposed to having me start in a $100,000 whole year, a $76,000 whole year. That is not fair for me to say, oh, well, we've doubled your budget.
Absolutely.
There has not been a motion actually yet, so we're not even there. All I will say is that the predecessor had no problem living within their budget, and they came and asked when there was going to be additional. And at this point, each of your 2 years now, you are by far the most expensive coroner that this county has ever seen. And you just keep asking for more and more and more. And when the council approved $90-some thousand a couple months ago, we were told that's it. That should get us through the end of the year. But you had money to go to Las Vegas out of that. Then you had money to transfer for body bags out of that last month.
$4,000.
So, at what point do we just say,
You don't have to follow Indiana code. You don't have to give us money for autopsies. That's up to you. But Indiana code says I have to have money for autopsies, kind of like the prosecutor has to have money to try their cases. So,
is there a motion?
And here's the thing: you're not allowing me to follow the standard of care in the United States. And technically, every case that is an overdose should be autopsied. That is the standard. So if we do that, then we're really going to be off budget. So yes, we are more expensive because standards change, people grow.
We have survived a COVID pandemic, now we're in a fentanyl pandemic.
And we've never been given anything for that.
Transfer, is there a motion? Hearing no motion, that would mean it dies.
Okay.
So, now the new money request.
So if we're out of money for employees,
The
we
new
can't pay
money
them. Then that's okay.
request was for $30,000, I believe. To go into professional services. Is there a motion to approve $30,000 of additional money for professional services?
Councilman Gill, can I ask a question? Or do you want to do a motion, or do you? What exactly, Dr. Abbott, what exactly is this $30,000 for? What is it for?
Autopsy, transportation, toxicologies. I keep everything in one line. And if we have to send stuff to Fort Wayne, we got to pay a fee to St. Joseph's at that time.
And how much do you have in there now?
$919.
Indiana code says We got to have money for autopsies.
Yeah. Councilman Gale.
Todd, would you've got a slide of the coroner's budget. Could you put that up on the screen? Okay. Do you have another?
No, I just.
Oh, and just to let you know, I have 2 family members who are looking at litigation because we've left bodies out on the table with no refrigeration. So that should be coming towards you for a lawsuit. We have nowhere in the county to house anybody greater than 450 pounds. So that is now the responsibility of the county, not the coroner's office. So while we have obligations, you as a council do too.
I think if you would talk to neighboring counties about what they do with bodies of that size, you would find that there are ways of handling that.
And you saw Chief Deputy Alfie come and tell us that you'll be responsible for that. We took one to Noblesville and had to house it over there.
I'd like to ask a question. Are you the elected coroner or are you the elected coroner? Because every time I've been...
Are you elected right now? No, you're not.
Actually, he is until December 31st. You know what?
That's out of line.
That's out of line.
Point of order.
This is garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I mean, we're here.
I can't see that.
You can't do any Indiana code. You can't get on any autopsies.
Okay, that's enough. You know, as I'm looking into this more and more, I'm finding
I don't care if they give it to
that
me.
several of the lines in your budget are going to be in a negative based on either bills that were just turned in today
Yep.
or bills that have not yet been turned in. I've looked into phone bills that seem to be submitted late. There's several delinquent notices. It just seems like the administrative side of your office is just out of control.
My
And that's your-
phone bills were fine. $333 a month. I know exactly what it is. I got it budgeted the rest of the way out.
Yeah, but they're being turned in for payment late.
And the previous corner had 7 months late. You guys complain about 1 week late.
Well, at the end of the day, consistently late is still late. And the previous coroner's not in office. You are.
That's right.
So
And
it's
that's
your
why we're asking for
responsibility.
money.
That's
It's
why
your
we're here for asking for
responsibility.
money to try to get things where it
Right,
needed to be.
But you
because your
keep comparing us
solution-
to them.
Your solution is not to run your office effectively. Your solution is to do whatever you want and come back and ask for more money all the time and spend so much more of the taxpayer money than any of your predecessors ever did in a year.
Can you predict how many deaths I'm going to have in 2023?
This isn't even about deaths. This is about how you schedule
We're
your
asking
employees.
you money for
You
Indiana
can schedule
code.
your employees appropriately.
We're asking you money for transportation in Indiana code. Everybody else has had an increase in gas. Everybody else has had an increase in vehicle usage, and we're not supposed to have any of this?
My employees, how they are scheduled the way the previous corner has scheduled them.
I would suggest maybe getting them scheduled in a manner that's consistent with Indiana state law.
We're happy to do anything you'd like and run that from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday.
Councilman Gale.
Okay. Is there a motion
Councilman Gale.
on the additional appropriation of $30,000?
The only thing that concerns me is we're not gonna, I mean, it is, they said it's typically for autopsies, and nothing else can come out of that. I just don't want to get stuck in somewhere where we're not doing them.
Do you have any outstanding bills?
Any outstanding bills?
I mean, we got to pay the autopsy, anything else. is-
I think everything got turned in today.
Mikhail, that's, anything can come out of that professional services.
And from
But we-
from what I
Professional
see,
services.
from what I see, they do have 6150 in forensic not turned in yet. Those invoices.
What he has left after today is $900. So we don't have money for fuel. We don't have money for transportation.
So you have.
We don't have money for autopsies.
You have $900 for autopsies, yet there are invoices outstanding that have not been turned in yet. for $6,150. So again, it's
Councilman Gill,
spending
can they
without
transfer
appropriation.
anywhere out of their budget to put in for autopsies instead of?
What else is left in your budget you want to transfer?
Well, I still need body bags. I mean, I'm out of body bags, I'm out of gloves.
the-
I mean,
the
I gotta have
other-
We have to
equipment.
have needles for syringes.
Yeah, I gotta have needles,
I mean,
toxins.
the whole thing that we're looking at here is the previous forensic pathologist. What they did is they abruptly stopped.
Yes.
And so what the problem is what's concerned me the last 2 months here is we have a forensic pathologist that is a locum tenens doctor, and she travels all over the country. She may not be available every week to do autopsies. And so therefore, we have to be able to have enough monies to transfer people to either Indianapolis, to Fort Wayne, because she's not available. And then when we have to transfer, then our cost of transportation doubles. So that's an issue as well. And so we have to be available and ready to be able to understand those additional expenses, as well as could be coming on if Dr. Watkins is not available. She's been fortunately available the last 2 weeks since she took over for Dr. Sozio, who abruptly retired. And Dr. Sozio covered 33 counties. Dr. Watkins is now up to 22 or 3 counties now. So that's the issue that we have. We have to be available to do that, and if we can't use Dr. Watkins locally to try to keep the costs down, then we have to go elsewhere. And that's going to be Fort Wayne or Indianapolis.
Dr. Abbott, we were also told, respectfully, we were also told that Henry and Hamilton counties are using Wolf and Watkins so that there could be someone else available.
We have left messages with Dr. Wolf, and he's not interested in coming over here, but I've already done that. I've left him 2 messages. But he covers around Lafayette. That's where he covers.
That's his main office.
Okay, well, we were
But
told
he lives
him.
he lives in
okay.
Hamilton County.
But 2 of our neighboring counties apparently are using him.
What surprises me is why none of you have called your Madison County Coroner's office.
I believe Councilman Steele offered to meet with the coroner just this last week, and the coroner didn't agree to that. But
That's because he was in a hurricane with his parents.
the other outstanding bill that has not been turned in yet is a bill for the highway fuel that was used this year. If the council remembers, last year, we had to make a transfer to make sure that the highway funds were made whole. That is something that has to be repaid according to the State Board of Accounts. And so you'll see on the new money, there is actually a debit of $97.80 from the fourth deputy that would then go to pay that and could also be used to pay for other bills that are not getting turned in. So would there be a motion on that?
Yeah.
So if you're out of deputies, they get salaries.
Yes, I make a motion to.
To defund the fourth deputy line, which is the vacant line, by $97.80.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Likens. We have a second by Councilman Alexander
The purpose of that is to pay the
to,
outs-
to pay outstanding bills that the coroner's not
so it's
paid,
not
turned
being
in.
transferred.
No,
We didn't
that would-
authorize,
We didn't authorize that
Yeah.
temporary cooler. The commissioner's office did.
yeah, that wasn't
you,
our
you
authorization.
fought like crazy, and it turned out that the governor's office had to get their legal counsel to get
We
that
didn't
trailer back.
authorize, we didn't
You
go into
used it,
contract with that.
And you refused to
You
give
did.
it back.
You guys entered in the contract. We didn't enter into
Actually,
a
we did
contract.
not.
The commissioners did. We did not.
So we have a motion and a second, so this would be time for the council to have discussion.
What
on this.
exactly, Councilman, is this for the gas that,
This would pay for gas, and it would
What
move the
else?
money back to the general fund so that we could pay for the gas that has to be paid for. We could pay for any other outstanding bills up to that amount of money that the coroner's office has not turned in. So we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That is approved. Seeing as there was no motion for the $30,000 new appropriation, that dies. So we will move on to county council.
Okay. We just want to make it clear,
Okay,
since the
we're
sheriff
done.
is here,
You can have your seat.
that we will only be working 8 to 4. We don't have any, we can't pay our people, we can't pay our people.
You can have a seat.
Okay, I'm just making it clear. I didn't want anybody to think we're getting blindsided like you guys do.
Yeah, I would think that the elected official might be very busy doing calls.
Nope, he only has to show up one day.
Excuse me, you're interrupting our meeting now. Sheriff, if we get another outburst from her, I'm going to ask that she's escorted out of the meeting. It's not appropriate to interrupt our meeting. Okay, County Council, this would move that general fund money that we removed from the 4th Deputy, the 9780, into 22,000 operating supplies, so that that could then be used to pay those bills. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Emery,
Second.
second by Councilman Alexander. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. And that passes. Next, we have the Prosecutor's Office. Chief Deputy Hannah, if you would want to start with the transfer that got
Sure.
moved down.
We've got several here. Let's see here. So one of our transfers would be from the 11725 field investigator position to the 4400. Those are all in the public safety fund. That $5,000 would be to outfit one of the new vehicles that we were able to purchase under the ARPA funds that were committed for that purpose. That vehicle is an investigator vehicle and outfitted for that purpose. It's there, I believe we turned it in, or invoice or quote for that. From the 11612, that's 2649 from that line item to the 4400 machinery and equipment. We had a couple computers that have gone sideways on us, so we're trying to fund these things as opposed to asking for new funds into our machinery and equipment. This one that comes from 7,600 from the 11507, 2,600 from the 13802, and 2,600 from the 11301. Those would be moved to our transcript fees. If you recall, I requested additional funds for transcripts some months ago, I believe in July. The council provided us some of that money, but asked that we go and get the rest of that money from ARPA. There still is no ARPA process to acquire those funds. Printing and advertising, other services. The other services come down to, for one, there's a DocuSign. We use DocuSign to do search warrants mobily, so police officers in the field can obtain search warrants. That's how we do that. So deputy prosecutor and on-call prosecutor works with a police officer to get a search warrant. That's then completed in the field, back and then to a judge for their signature, all through DocuSign. And we apparently have been in the wrong plan with DocuSign that was brought to our attention, much to our dismay. And so we owe them more money for that plan going forward. And that's what, apparently you aren't supposed to have 20 people in your personal DocuSign account, just for your own future reference.
So you were attempting to save money, but it didn't work so
it was just what we did, I guess. I don't think anybody dig too much further into it. But those are the, those. And then there's movement in our prosecutor 4D. I don't know if that was just to pay some outstanding bills before the end of the year from that open, what amount of money that we had in an open line item before we refilled that position.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Vaughn to approve the transfers.
Second.
Second by Councilman Emery. Is there any discussion or further questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes. Okay, so now for the new money.
The new money, we have a prosecutor's winter every year IPAC, which is the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council, are authorized by statute to conduct 2 trainings for prosecutors in the state of Indiana. We attend some, if not all of our deputies attend one or both of those events for different purposes and what of those needs may be. That's also the way that we fulfill our CLEs, which are continuing legal education credits. We have a CLE, the winter conference is coming up, and while the statute requires sending any deputy prosecutors and all the expenses associated with that to be paid from the general fund, we did pay for the summer conference from our discretionary funds, which is in excess of $25,000 or so. But we're not going to be able to do that with our winter conference. And I had requested additional money than what we actually end up needing. So I'm reducing that $10,000 to $7,125, which would is pretty right on the money of what would pay for the certain prosecutors that have to go to that training.
Do we have to change that or anything?
Yeah, we could change that in the motion,
And
if there's one made, yeah. Speaking of which, is there a motion?
I make a motion that we, do I need to make a motion to approve first, or do the?
Just make a motion to approve at the 7125, if you like.
Okay, make a motion to approve 7,125 for the conference.
Okay, we have a motion to approve at $7,125 by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emery. Is there any discussion?
Thank you for reducing, thank you.
Yep, of
for
course.
reducing that. Thank you. Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that passes. Next, we have the commissioners. Thank you very much. Is there someone from the commissioner's office? Yeah, Tom, thank you.
Good evening, Tom Ecker, County Administrator. You want to handle both of these
Yeah,
one at a
yes.
time? In your packet, you should have got the last two bills for insurance. This is usually a line item that's cut during budget time. So we have two bills that are due for our insurance. One of them is the cyber insurance that we carry. So those are due end of the year, so that'll take care of us for the rest of the year. You want to talk about the other one too?
Yeah.
The $1,000 is, we have in our budget, when the sheriff transfers inmates out of county for mental evaluation and things like that, that's in our budget, and we need $1,000 for this year to make that whole.
Okay. Is there a
Need a
motion?
motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Steele. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That passes.
Thank you.
Now we move on to salary ordinances. And again, if these are voted to approve unanimously, then they can pass on the first reading. Otherwise, we would have to have a second reading. I do see that Councilman Reese stepped out quite a while ago, so it would be unanimous based on the members that are present. So the first salary ordinance, 2022-11C, this is for the ARPA fund premium pay for employees. So is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn.
Second.
Second by Councilman Alexander. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I'm hearing that passing unanimously. Next is salary ordinance 2022-11D. This is adjustment of salaries for the employees for the year 2022, and this is for the central dispatch fund that we dealt with, I believe, last month, didn't we? Or, actually, no, I'm sorry. That was earlier in the meeting with the transfers that we approved this. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Alexander. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. Next is salary ordinance 2022-11E. This is in relation to the SIM grant fund that we approved just a little bit ago. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Councilman Vaughn makes the motion, and Councilman Alexander makes the second once again. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously. The fourth item, salary ordinance 2022-11F, that would be adjusting the pay of the second and third deputy in the coroner's budget. That appropriation didn't pass. So unless somebody wants to make things really confusing here, we really don't even need to entertain this one. Hearing no motion, I'll say that that one has died. I don't believe there are any committee reports. So that being the case, if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Vaughn.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Likens. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Yes.